Hey guys, RW here on Little Mountain. Going to show you how to do a complete takedown on the SR9 to get to all the internal parts if you want to do a deep cleaning or anything else to it. First thing you want to do, obviously, when you're working on a gun is make sure it's empty. With the SR9, the way that you field strip it is you press this little extractor part down. Okay, you press out this pin here. You can actually use a bullet to do that if you want to. Okay. And for general purposes, this is about as far as you have to go for most cleaning. Okay. But when you first get a gun from Ruger, they have it packed with some kind of grease, and it's good to be able to get at all the different parts. One of the parts that I think that you should definitely look into cleaning would be the striker. And the way to do that is you press down this and this. You'll hear a little click. Okay, there's a little hole right here. You see that little hole? You just press down in there, and there's a little pin that catches that. Okay, and at this point, you can now remove the striker. And if you don't like a magazine disconnect feature, this is the magazine disconnect. You take this part out, set it aside. You can always put it back in the gun. At this point, with that removed, the gun is still completely functional, but it will fire with no magazine. And at this point, now you can really get into the striker. You can clean the whole thing out. You can soak it, ultrasonic clean it, whatever your deal is. Okay. As you can see, my gun is filthy. I've been shooting Tula. Shot about 500 rounds of Tula through it, so it's pretty filthy. So this is a good time to inspect your firing pin, your striker assembly, clean it, all that good stuff. That's about it for the slide. If you want to get in here and do crazy things to it, that's your business. If you want to get in here and polish the feed ramp or whatever turns you on, you can do that. But I'm going to continue with the disassembly. Okay, now at this point, to take the rest of this trigger group out of here, what you do is you raise this to the middle position. Okay, not all the way up, not all the way down, but in the middle. And this pin right here will press out very easily. And it comes right out. This pin only goes in one way. It has a flat that indexes with a flat on the hole. Okay, the other pins just press out. These pins are not all identical, so you may want to set them aside, and you may want to put them in order, like 1, 2, 3. Okay, you don't have to use a hammer or anything. You can just use some pressure. Push them out. That. Okay, at this point you can now remove the trigger group. This part just lifts out, as does this. This whole assembly just comes out. And if you don't want to go any further than this, at this point you could just get in here and try and clean all this. If there's anything you wanted to polish or do anything to, I don't see any reason to polish anything. The only thing I can imagine you might want to just do is take this all apart so you can clean it really good in case it's got a lot of powder residue in it. I wouldn't bother taking any of the trigger parts apart. This part is a little tricky to take apart, so I would watch carefully so you don't have certain things happen that you don't like. For instance, there's a little tiny spring right here that holds the pins. Okay, it's not under a lot of tension, but you don't want to lose it. It's a critical part. Okay, there's also a tiny little spring-loaded piece under here that will go flying, so you definitely want to keep your finger over it as it comes out so it doesn't go flying away. Okay. Once you've done this, for instance, if you're going to do a ghost trigger installation or something like that, this is the part that you want to take apart. This transfer bar here has a tongue on it that is indexed into the ejector part, and the way to do that is you just lift it out of there. I'm not doing a great job. I got my glasses on. I can't see that great, but it's just in a groove there. So basically, you just pull it forward, and out she comes. Okay. There's a spring here, which you'll have to reinstall. This little leg goes into a little hole right here. No big deal. And this spring hooks on this way onto this. So when you're reassembling it, just reverse your steps. Okay. At this point, you know, I look at this, I see no wear areas at all on this, so I don't see anything that would make any sense to polish or adjust or change on this. So you can set that aside. For guys that are doing the ghost trigger install, this is the part that you're going to be fiddling with. This is the part you're going to be changing out or reinstalling. And if you want to, you could pop the safety off. And at this point, there's really not a whole lot more that you need to do in here. I would just leave that spring on there and not mess with it. I don't think I would mess with taking this apart either. I mean, there are pins and you can push it all out and you can take this all apart, but I don't see the purpose of that. Okay, we're going to start the reassembly of the gun so you can see the parts. I just wanted to show you a couple things that I went ahead and did. I don't think these are necessary, but you know, I had the gun apart. So these are parts that I went ahead and polished with the Dremel. There's really no reason to do that. I polished this. I think this might help though, because the slide does slide against this, so anything that's shiny is going to slide better, right? Didn't do anything to this. Okay. Polished the entire striker assembly. Cleaned it really good, dried it off, made sure there's no residue inside of it, anything. Went around and polished this because it's all wear on it. Lightly polished this. I didn't want it to look shiny or anything. I just touched it up. Okay. And that's really the only parts that I, you know, went after. I didn't go crazy trying to make it look like chrome or anything. Alright, so let's go back over here to my workspace so you guys can see what I'm doing as best you can. Alright, so first thing I'm going to want to reassemble is this whole assembly here. I'm going to leave the mag disconnect out for right now, and then you know, if I want to put it back in, I always can. Okay, this goes in. You'll notice that there is a little flat on the plastic part. Not sure exactly why, but I'm going to orient that so that it is down against here, like I took it apart and it was. Okay, and all you have to do to get that to go in is you just want to press this and it'll snap. You hear that little click, that means this is all ready to go. Okay, I took this little spring out so I could clean better. This is what traps the end cap, so feed that back into its hole. No big deal, you just don't want to bend the spring. You want to make sure that it's ready to go back in there. Okay, see that? Okay. Alright. Sorry about the squeaky table, it's kind of getting on my nerves. Might be getting on yours pretty soon. And then you just push that in, and you can push this back up in there. Okay. Like that. Okay. So now this part's back together. Might as well go ahead and put in the barrel and the recoil spring. Okay, which goes in this way. Okay, now we can set this aside. This is 100% done. Now you want to put all the parts back together, so you're going to be starting off with this part here. Alright, so once you got the slide together, then you want to work on your trigger group, and it's really pretty straightforward stuff, guys. You put this back in, it only goes in one way. There it goes. Okay. You've got to put this spring in. It goes the leg of it right here. This leg right here, the little, it goes right in here, and it goes in there. Hold it with your thumb, just pinch it down. Okay. Get that spring flipped up. Okay. You're going to see the little hole right there on the tab. You just feed it in there. And the way to make this easy on yourself is you got to get this leg of this spring underneath this area here. So you're going to want to pull forward, give a little tension on the spring, rotate this down so that it's easy to key it in, and then this goes on the outside of this whole assembly. Now pinch that, okay, hold it together for a second until you can get it trapped with your with your safety. Okay, the safety just goes right in there, and once it comes up, it's going to trap it. Okay, I didn't get it snapped in good. Look at the dumbass. Yeah, it's really not hard. The more you do this, the better you'll get at it. And as you can see, I've polished all these parts, so everything here that moves and slides against itself is nice and shiny. Okay. Now, the last thing to do to complete this assembly is you put this little spring with the little cone shape on top of it there. Okay, and the whole purpose of that is it catches a little detent on the other side of the safety. You push that down enough that you can get the safety to go up over it. It helps to push it down with something enough that you can trap it. And that's that assembled back together. That's the way that's supposed to look once it's all assembled. Okay, pretty simple stuff, right, guys? To look at it really close here. Okay, that's what it should look like when it's going back together. This spring, okay, you'll see there's a little channel right here. This is something that's really critical, and you see that how that's bent up like that? The frame is going to push that into that groove. So when you're inserting this into the frame, that's something you have to be mindful of. Okay. I just want to show you. This is the way the thing should look when you're about ready to put it in. You've got your safety holding your various parts together, your transfer bar, your trigger, all that stuff. There's nothing that you really have to worry about on this end. Okay. And then the one thing that you've got to remember to put in is this little wire. Now you can put this in right at the end, but what that does is that traps all your pins, so you've got to have that in there. I'm going to show you the easiest way to put this all together. Okay. First thing you do is you make sure that the trigger's coming through the hole. Don't worry about this part yet. Okay. And then what you got to do is you have to have this little part here lined up with this groove here, and you got to make sure that this little spring is going into its channel. And the easiest way to do is to help guide it with your finger, so that you make sure everything goes where it's supposed to go. Just keep your finger on the inside there, and when you push down, it's going to go down pretty easy that way. You can look inside and see if it's doing what you think it's supposed to be doing. And at this point, it helps to have that a little bit forward. Okay. And you see how that went back in? And if you pull this forward a little bit, it makes everything work out better. Okay. So now that's how it goes. It's pretty simple. All right. But you don't want to forget that little wire. Okay. See how I've got a little space right there for it? I like to have this in first, so I know that that's in there. Okay, this little tiny bent wire spring, it goes in this channel here. Okay, it's pretty straightforward. Yeah. Don't worry about if it doesn't seem to want to go where you want it to go, because it will go once you start moving it into its. Once you start putting it into the frame, I'll make sure I've got that so you can see it. Okay, this is going to want to lift up a little bit and be a pain in the butt and all that kind of stuff. Don't worry about it. You just get this thing started, and that's going to drive itself. Watch. See? Drove itself right in there. So you don't have to fight with that. You just push it down. Okay, now you'll notice that the holes do not line up yet. Okay, don't force anything. Reset the trigger manually. Once you push it down, now everything's in place. First pin I would put in is the one that has the flat. It's only going to go in if that ejector part is part way down. Okay, and you'll know if it's right because it'll go in very, very easily. You don't force it. It's got a little flat. Indexes with the flat in that hole. Okay, now that's up. That's in there now. Okay, this is in. Now you'll be able to tell which pins go where because they have grooves at different depths. Okay. This little wire that you just fiddled with is going to trap this one. I would use something to push that in because it could hurt your finger if you're trying to push it with your hand. Okay? And it doesn't have any kind of little dent on it, so you can't really use a punch very effectively. Okay? And the one with the deeper groove goes in the middle. You'll know if you got these right because they'll click. They'll click when they're in the right spot. Here it click. Here it click. And this one, see a little groove? You want it so the groove is close to this end. And you insert that in here. Okay. That one goes in easy. Alright. Now everything has been back assembled. Before you put your slide on, push this down. Okay. All you have to do is go back, catch it with the slide catch, push your pin back in. Okay. At this point, the gun's good to go. I do not have my mag disconnect part in there. The gun will. I just want to show you everything's empty. I would definitely test it a few times. Now you should never dry fire an SR9 without the mag in it if it has the mag disconnect part in it. But without the mag disconnect part in it, you can dry fire it as much as you want without hurting anything. Okay, and that's it, guys. It's that simple. But I just wanted to show you the assembly. Now I want to show you where I would lube this gun and do the lubing. You can push this out with a tip of a bullet if you want to. But anyway, you've got to push the ejector part down. And the only parts that I would lube on this gun, it's easier to lube this gun if you take the barrel and the spring out. I'll just show you. I use break free on a lot of my stuff. I like how it works. I'm not saying it's the world's best lube or anything, but what I found is if I put a little drop in there, I can let it just roll all the way down, and it'll roll all the way down that groove, all the way to the end. And so I just let that roll down. I don't know if you can see the little bit of oil is moving its way down now. And once it's gotten all the way down there, okay, I just turn it around. I do the other side. Again, one drop or so in there, right? I just let it roll down. Can you see it rolling? See that oil rolling down there? Okay. Okay. That's a part that has some wear on it. Okay. I just put a little oil on my finger. I don't want to put a ton of oil on it. But I just put a tiny bit of brake free on my finger. Right there. There's a tiny little bit of wear. Okay, right in there. Okay. Now the area that I like to oil, so I just do the whole barrel. I give it a light oiling all over. Okay, you can always wipe off. This is a very easy part to clean. This is a part where I would think grease is actually better than oil because it'll stay put. But I oil up the areas of the cam block. Okay. At this point, you see there's not a ton of oil in this gun. This is one area that I don't want oil all over is inside here. Okay, I just want it on this right here. Okay. Put this back together. Okay, get the oil off my hands so I don't get it all over the outside of the frame. The thing about brake free, man, is once it gets on you, it stays on you, and you'll smell like it until you wash your hands. Okay, now we just put the gun back together. Okay, so now the gun is lubed to the point where I think it needs to be lubed. That's it. That's all I would lube it. Okay, guys, I'm going to show you that the gun will fire without a mag in. Okay, take the mag out, safety to off, right? So if you want your SR9 to do that, you just remove that little mag disconnect. No big deal. As always, you know, anything that you do to modify your gun, you do at your own risk. I hope my video was helpful to you. Sub my channel, rate, comment, and shoot safely. Thanks, guys.